Okay, so welcome to a tabletop unboxing and analysis that's been a long time coming, and that is the Phantom from Piscifun. Now, originally Piscifun contacted me and asked me if I wanted to do another review on another baitcaster they had, because I've already done one on their affordable Perseus baitcaster. And originally, I didn't think I really wanted to do another review, but I went ahead and looked on their website to check out the reel to see what it was about. And when I saw the specs, I told them, yeah, I'd love to do a review on the Phantom. So let's get to it. Okay, let's check this out. So what do we have here? We have the neoprene case, just like the one that came in the Perseus. I'll have to admit, the one that came with the Perseus didn't really fit it when it was mounted on a rod all that well, but it was still nice to have one. And I think this is a sticker, and of course the schematics. We don't care about that. I'm going to put this off to the side and check this reel out. Now, there was a couple of things that got me interested in this reel, but let's take a look at it really quick before we get into the analysis. Look at that, it's got a extremely heavily ported spool. Hope you guys can see that. Not only in the middle, but on the sidewalls right there. Alright, look at that. Okay, now that we've seen what this reel looks like, let me take a few minutes and analyze this thing, and I'll come back and let you know my findings. Okay, so taking a few minutes to look over the reel and make some mental notes of some features and characteristics, and let's go over some of the basic stuff first. Now, this has got a carbon frame and side plates. Now, they say carbon and not graphite because I guess, I'm not mistaken, carbon is reinforced graphite. If you look at it, it's kind of got this matte black color, and it's really smooth despite being matte. Now, there's some reels that have a matte color that's really sticky and cheap looking, but not this one. Yeah, and it palms pretty good. It's not the most striking reel in the world, but it's definitely a nice looking reel. Nobody's gonna look at this and think, oh my god, it's ugly. Now, it's got a 105mm handle, really long handle. It's got 6 + 1 ball bearings, so that's 6 ball bearings and 1 roller bearing, and the bearings are anti-corrosion, so I guess that's similar to Shimano's anti-rust. Now, it's got a multi-disc drag that's carbon, and I think metal washers that give you up to 17 pounds of drag, they say. And this thing's got dual brakes. Let me open this up for you. Now, figure out how to work that mechanism. Now, it's got this style of internal centrifugal brakes that give you adjustments from 0 to 6. Let me see if I can turn that. And what is it on right now? I can't tell what the setting's on. It looks to be on 6. Could be wrong. And it's kind of hard to turn. Might have to pull the spool out. But anyway, here's the magnets right here. And of course the magnets interact with this metal piece. Let me see if I can turn this braking system. There we go. Okay, so there's one thing that I would change if I was Piscifun is it's got a notch here, but it's black, so you out in the field you really can't see it to tell which setting you're on. So it's on 0 right now. Now it's on 1. If they would have made that red, it'd be a lot easier to see. Of course, here's the magnets, and the magnets have 0 to 10 external adjustments, but let's see if there's any kind of in-between clicks. Okay, so there's 22 clicks for a total of 23 settings. So 23 times 6, actually 23 times 7, you do the math there. It's a lot of adjustability, which I love in bait cast reels. Okay. So actually, while I got the spool out, I'm gonna go ahead and weigh it. Now take a look at this spool here. Have you seen a spool that's more ported than this? It's got this porting on the walls, side walls, like the SHIMANO's MGL spool. I think GARCIA, the REVO MG Extreme had the porting. But I want to see how much this weighs. Now the spool itself is it's a big 36mm spool, so this thing should be able to cast long distances pretty well. Okay, check that out. That is a 14.2 gram spool with a bearing. So the bearing, let's assume this bearing is 1 gram because it's pretty small. So you're looking at a 13.5 gram spool even with this braking mechanism attached to it. So this is a super light spool. This thing should cast pretty dang good. So this has got a spool that's roughly the same weight as the CHRONARCH MGL, and it's lighter than the TATULA SV spool. Now it is pretty deep in it, so it holds a lot of line, but still. Alright, so let's get to the second thing that really got my attention about this reel when I was looking at the specs online, and that is the overall weight of the reel itself. Now the spool was one thing that got my attention that made me want to test this out, but the weight itself is supposed to be 5.7 ounces. Okay, look at that, 5.639 ounces. So that was the main thing that got me wanting to try this reel out. Now if you guys like what you see, I'm going to leave a link to their Amazon site as well as their website in the description so you guys can check it out. Now the great thing about this reel right now, as of this video recording, I'm looking on their site, it's only $70. That's crazy for such a light reel. Now to demonstrate the significance of $70, I brought out one of my favorite reels of all time, and this is my first ever high-end baitcaster reel. Actually my first high-end reel, period. And when I say high-end, I mean something that costs over 300 bucks. Now I got this reel, actually not this specific reel, but I've had quite a few Core 50s, but my first Core 50 I bought way back, I think in 2010. I was really nervous about ordering one because they were $369 and I'd never spent that much on a reel before. Now what happened is I played with one at Bass Pro Shops and it was so light and so smooth, it prompted me to go on eBay, and back then you could find these for around 300 bucks and buy one. And let me tell you something, guys, once you go lightweight reels, you can't go back, at least for me. Okay, so just to give you guys an example, when this was out, it was $370, and it was supposed to weigh 5.5 ounces. So it barely squeaks in at 5.59 ounces. So the Phantom is literally the same weight. Now, holding them in hand, yeah, they feel about the same. Of course, the core is a lot smaller, and the reason the core costs so much, of course, is that it's got a magnesium frame, and magnesium costs more. Of course, as well, some other things that make it cost more, but you know, holding them in hand, because the core is smaller, it actually feels a little heavier in hand because I guess it's more dense. And since the Phantom is bigger, the weight is distributed out a little bit more. But yeah, I mean, back in 2010, if you wanted a reel that was under 6 ounces, you only had 2 options. You had the Core 50 from Shimano, 370 bucks, or you had the DAIWA STEEZ, which was well over 400 bucks, probably closer to 500 at the time. So fast forward about 8 years, now you can buy reels that are about the same weight for 70 bucks. That's crazy. Okay, so to better illustrate my point here, I brought out some reels to show you guys a little bit of an illustration. Now, in my experience, when it comes to reels, reels are kind of like girls. The lighter they are, the more expensive they are. And the heavier they are, the cheaper they are. So let's take a look at this. 8.5 ounces, 7.5 ounces, 6.5 ounces, and about 4.5 ounces. $99, $200, $270. Oh, actually, I think this is $280 and $420. So are you seeing a pattern there? So the cheapest one at 100 bucks is the heaviest, and as you get lighter, they get far more expensive. Now, of course, most of these have metal frames, and of course this is magnesium, but you're looking at this CHRONARCH. It still weighs about 1 ounce more, and it's got a, you know, a fancy graphite frame as well. So this is actually a pretty good deal, and it's a what I consider probably a good gateway reel for those of you who want to venture into the sub 6 ounce reels, just to see how they feel like and how they cast and how they fish without spending, you know, hundreds of dollars. Then this might be the one for you. Okay, so for this final portion of the analysis, let's go over some features that I noticed about the Phantom that Piscifun didn't list. As you can see here, they went with green color accents instead of red that you find on a lot of other reels. You see the green there on the spool tension, the retainer, the end caps. So if you're a fan of green, then you might like this. Now, it's got a clicking drag star that's made of some kind of a graphite composite. It's also got a clicking spool tension. Now, the thing about this spool tension, as you can see, it's got the 3 green rings and it's knurled, as well as the little green notch, but the space in between clicks is really precise. Like, there's no slop in between clicks that like you'll find on a lot of other reels that have clickers. Now, this reminds me of my DAIWA SS Air in the precision of turning this and there being no slop in between clicks. Now, of course, the DAIWA SS Air feels noticeably better, but you know, this is $70, so that's really nice. Now, the thumb bar is solid. It's got no slop or play in it or mush like on the Perseus. Now, it's plastic, but it's got this little rubber piece here. It's got some groove and some holes for, I guess, for grip. As you can see, it's got numbers for the magnetic adjustment, and turning this dial feels nice and positive, as well as it's got that green little bar there, indicator bar, lets you know what setting you're on. A lot of other companies don't include numbers on their external dials. Now, as you can see, it's got this carbon fiber bent handle, or swept, however you want to call it. But take a look at the bends. They are more angular, which I like. A lot of carbon fiber handles, they're kind of curved, but this has more angular bends. And that reminds me of the high-end DAIWA SLP handles and the MEGABASS handle, so that's really nice. And it's also got an oversized line guide. Now, it's oversized up and down, and that's to accommodate the really tall spool. Remember, it's got a 36mm spool. Now, it's not all roses. There are a couple of quality control issues, at least with this particular reel. You can see here that it's got some kind of a pitting on this knob. It's gonna be hard to pick up. And on this knob end cap, they missed some kind of some anodization there, as you can see. I don't know if that's chipped or they just missed it. You know, no big deal, but if you're a stickler for details like that, then it may bother you. But then again, it might be just this particular reel they sent me. You can see the green accents here. There's like some green banding around that looks pretty nice. Now, the retrieve itself is really solid and rigid, smooth and solid and rigid, just like the Perseus. Now, it's got an aluminum gear to save weight. Now, the retrieve is a little bit more hollow compared to the Perseus because, you know, this weighs over 2 ounces less and the frame is made of carbon. So yeah, overall for $70 you get literally a whole lot of reel. You get super adjustable brakes with fine tuning, a very lightweight spool, oversized line guide, precision spool tension, carbon fiber handle that's 105 millimeters, and of course 5.6 ounces. That's crazy. Now, I went on Tackle Warehouse to see what the cheapest reel is I could find that was under 6 ounces, and it was some kind of an Ardent that they say weighed 5.9 ounces, but it was $150. Now, of course, that reel has an aluminum frame, but still, this feels really solid. Now, will it hold up to you know, regular style fishing? Of course, that's always the question with these reels from overseas that just, you know, companies that popped up out of nowhere. But it feels really good. I don't see why it would fall apart. So yeah, Piscifun Phantom. Now, if you're one of these guys who has always wanted a really lightweight reel, but you didn't want to spend that kind of money like I did with this Core 50 here, then this is a perfect reel, a perfect gateway reel for you to try out a lightweight reel. Now, I will warn you, if you pair this up with a lightweight rod, you may not want to go back to heavier reels, because lightweight combos, at least in my experience, allow you to cast farther because you can swing them faster. You'll be more accurate, take less effort to be more accurate. And of course, if you're one of these guys that like to grind out 12-hour fishing days, you should be less fatigued at the end of the day. So once again, if you think you're interested in this Piscifun Phantom, it's going to be links in the description on where you could get it. And thanks a lot, guys.